Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first time homebuyer webinar Master Your Finances to Secure the Best House for You. All right, everyone. My name is Longley. I am a local real estate agent here in Chandler, Arizona. I serve the entire Chandler, Gilbert, Mesa, Tempe, Phoenix, Glendale, Peoria, and all the way to Surprise and Buckeye. I have been blessed to be able to help hundreds of home buyers in Arizona. And for the last 12 months, my record is I was able to save about 850, more than $800,000 for all the buyers I helped for the last 12 months, including home price negotiation, home repairs, seller concession, as well as buyer agent fee. I've been if you search my name on Google Longley Realtor, you're gonna see a tracking record of 5-star reviews with more than 100 buyers have been approved that. Right. Also, based on the number of transactions, I've been named top number one agent in the Maricopa County region. Right. So with that, I'm so excited to share with you some of the strategy and tactic that I've been using to help my home buyers clients in today webinar. With that, let's dive right into the information. But first, I wanted to congratulate to all of you because I understand that you as a home, business owner, you do have a work, you do have a busy life, you do have a lot of time. You need time with family, with friends, with your kids, with grocery shopping, with your job, right? More importantly, with your job. And you spend time with me today to understand about the home buying process. So I want to congratulate you about making the best decision, making a decision actually to, take advantage of this training is number one, but two, taking your time to understand more about the home buying process. So congratulations to you. I want to share with you one story before we get started on everything, right? This is the story about me. When I first landed in the US in 2009, okay, I came to the country with nothing. In fact, my plane ticket was bought by my sister. Okay, so $800. I still remember the one-way ticket. $800 was bought by my sister from Saigon, Vietnam to the U.S. I came to the U.S. My aunt actually offered me a room so that I can live with her for free, so I don't have to worry about rent, right? And then my mom also contribute $2,000 for me to purchase a Toyota Camry 1995 at that time. So that means I came here, I had nothing. Everything had to be provided by my family members. So I never imagined that I'd be able to own a house in my entire life, right? In fact, I do have a lot of new experience living in the US. I am in I've been in Disneyland for the first time of my life. I went to SeaWorld and see dolphins. Dolphins in my first of my life. And by the way, I was 20 years old and 6 months. Okay. And then I was able to do like all you can eat buffet in Las Vegas. In fact, that's the only I found out later that it was the only thing I can do in Las Vegas because I was 20 years old and 6 months, right? I cannot gamble, I cannot go see show, I cannot see any do anything. Crazy. We see like making sense in Las Vegas, right? But I'm blessed for the opportunity that I was able to do all you can eat. But then after like the first 3 months, I came to the US. Everyone happy, everyone welcomed me to the US. Then I have to come back to my real life, right? I got a job at Marshalls. I went to MCC to continue my engineering degree as a biomedical engineer and dreaming for a better future. Well, the better future, I saw the better future right away, but not in financial means, but in my life, right? In fact, I met my wife my wife now, the love of my life. And within a moment, I know right away, I think in my head that she's going to be my wife, right? But I never think it would be true. Then, about 3 months, I'm sorry, about 3 years in 2012, I asked her out, she agreed. And by the end of 2015, I proposed to her. And she said yes. Well, that's good. But then that is also the beginning of the whole crazy year of 2016. In one year, 2016, there's plenty of big events happening, right? We have to do planning for two weddings at the same time. One in Vietnam and one in the US with the same lady, by the way, just in case you wonder, right? Same lady that I met in college, same lady that I think this would be my wife. But we're gonna have two weddings because most of my family and her family as well, friends as well, still in Vietnam. So we do have to have two weddings. I I'm on process of graduating my master degree that year as well, 2016. That means I was also in the middle of job hunting, okay, with facing a lot of pressure from like interviewing and finishing the job application, right? Also, little that I know, after we, during the whole process of planning for school, planning for weddings and everything, job and everything, my wife, my fiance back then suggested to buy a house. The whole reason is this. Well, my mom and I live in a rental. My wife and her mom live in a rental. Now, if we rent, right, for our own place, that would be three rental payments, and it just doesn't make sense to pay all three payments. Instead, just buy a house that the all four of us can stay together. So more complication during the process, right? And of course, is feel overwhelmed. It feel I don't know how to make the decision back then. Even, and not to mention, buying a house is something that I never dream of. Because it's fun fact, in Vietnam, most of the time back then, okay, back then, whenever they say buy a house, that means they pay 100% by cash. I came to the US, remember, with $0, and I was in the middle of finishing school, so I obviously do not have a lot of cash, not to mention 100% cash, right? So everything seemed to be very confusing, everything seemed to be unreachable. But then that's when we reach out for help. My realtor back then, because I was not a realtor back then. My realtor happened to be also my financial mentor back then. He's one of my scholarship sponsor, and we met after receiving the scholarship, and we become a best friend. And I consider him as my mentor. And then luckily he also a realtor, and he was able to explain to us about the home buying process, how to do like pre-qualification, how to choose the house, making what should be the first priority versus the last priority. That actually gave us a lot of confidence in taking the leap. Okay. In May 2016, when we stand in front of our first house, keys in hand, I felt a wave of relief and also pride as well. Because hey, I came to the US with zero in hands, with starting from scratch, even college, the one that I had for 3 years in Vietnam, I have to start all over. But now we did it. It and it wasn't because of the timing was perfect. I never thought of is it a good time to buy or not. It's just because we are in need and we got the right guidance, right? And we took the action despite our fear. And talking about fears, that is actually one of the biggest reason why a lot of people do not take the leap yet, do not take the action yet. And it's mainly because the fear of the making mistake. In fact, buying a home is one of the biggest decisions of your life. Could be, right? Now, according to the National Association of Realtor, In a research for buyer profile in 2024, after the home buyer purchased the home, they survey the home buyers and say, what is the most challenging, what is the most difficult part in the home buying process? 32% of the people say saving for the down payment is the most difficult part. 36% finding understanding the process and the step in home buying process is the most difficult. Now, 53% of the people finding no telling the survey that finding the right property is the most challenging part and the most scary part of the home buying process because they are afraid of making the mistake. Think about it. If you don't find if you find a wrong house, right? You cannot do a return. You cannot just say I want to sell it because there's going to be more cost as well. It's not easy to do. So a lot of people are afraid of that. And if it is you right now, if it is you right now, don't be afraid because you are not alone. I was there. Everybody buy the first house right now is here as well, including you. And here's the thing. Here's the problem that all the first time home buyer facing, and the cause is because hesitation. Now, why hesitation? Okay, because here's the thing. Think about if you worry about the down payment, you can search on the internet, Google, ChatGPT, all kind of AI can give you the answer right away, how to save the down payment, right? And then if you worry about the process, you can search. And then you can find a property on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, very easy, right? You can go to the website, put in some key 3-bedroom, 2-bath price, and it's going to give you the property that you want. And then you can also easily ask ChatGPT to see whether it is a good property or not, by the way, right? But here's the thing. It's not about the information, but it's more about the overload of information. The overload of information causing people to hesitate to make the decision because they don't know. You don't know what information is accurate, what information is more important than the other information. It's not as easy as 1 + 1 is 2, right? How about this? How about that? You having a lot of information, and that's the reason why you hesitate to make the decision. With that, I'm passionate about creating a system that helping you make the right decision. The decision based on what we call non-negotiables. And this is a framework that I actually invest a lot of time to fine-tune to explain to hundreds of buyers that I've been helping to explain to them, here's the first step, here's the second step, here's the third step. Don't worry about the price now. Let's focus on the house, right? These are the framework that I have been applying, and a lot of people appreciate the framework as well. It's not just a checklist, but it's more like a guidance, a tool, an instruction, a manual that you can easily follow and make the right decision. Okay, and here's the overall framework. Very easy, only 4 P's. Okay, number one, preparation, in which we're talking about finding the right people to helping you, saving for the down payment and get the loan approval. Very basic stuff. Number two, production. This is how we actually showing you the process of finding the right house, right? Giving us the feedback so that we can find a better house for you if the current house is not the one that you like. Home search process, how to appropriately searching for a home instead of just randomly asking other people, other family member, other friends, whoever who don't even buy a house yet, and you asking whether it's the right house for you, right? Pricing is extremely important for the home buying process to make sure that you get the fair price, the seller also get the fair offer, instead of try to create a win-win situation for both sides and make sure that you get the contract accepted as well as to your house. And last but not least, the 4 P's, which is the process. How, after all the things that you do, make sure that the transaction The real estate transaction go through very smooth from the beginning to the inspecting the home as well as getting the final loan approval. That is such a long process with a lot of explanation and complication that I cannot just spend about 60 minutes, 55 minutes to explain to you. So for the purpose of today first time home buyers, I would like to focus on the two most important aspects of the entire buyer process for first time home buyer, which is the saving for the down payment, how to find the right down payment, and saying that you are ready to purchase the home. And the second is how to determine the fair price for a house that you like. Okay. Now, I wouldn't leave you just for random thought about other steps, right? If you're interested in knowing more about other steps, feel free to download this guide right here. This is a buyer guide that I actually put all the information together in there, and in which I talk about all the four P's that I went so much more detail than just a webinar. So I'm gonna give you the QR code here again. Of course, this will be recorded, and you can come back and check out the scan the QR code later if you like. Okay. Okay. All right. With that, let's dive right into the first um, non-negotiable decision, which is belong to the preparation phase. Okay. Before I talk about how to appropriately prepare for your financial, I want to talk about one story about me. Okay. Back in 2016 as well, as you remember, it was the busiest time of my life. I Like I said, I was getting ready to get married, right? Two weddings. I was, applying for hundreds, if not thousands of jobs, right? Because for some reason, I keep applying, and none of them call me. Okay. So, and then I was also fighting on the process of finding a house as well. Okay. But that was also a year that I finally achieve my college goal, which is graduated. And by March of 2016, I already know that I got a job. I finished the job interview. They call me, they say, that's fine, finish the career, finish the degree by May, and we're getting ready for you to get a job. I remember I got 66,000 a year offer as a new grad engineering back then, which was a very good money. Think about it. Like I said, I never made any money before I came to the US, right? 66,000 a year. That's a lot of money for a new grad like me. Okay. And did I tell you that I have student loan debt? Yes, I do. I spend about I including my wife as well. My wife and I all together we have about 200,000 student loan debt. Most of the debt is because of my master degree school year. Okay, so, but I didn't think about that. All right, I still driving my 1995 that my mom gave me 2000 when I first came to the US. I bought it and I still have it. And I'm like, come on, I'm now like earning 66,000 already. I deserve a better ride. I deserve a better car than the 1995, right? The one that giving me a lot of memories through 6 years of college. So one Saturday, I convinced my buddy Ngaya to come to, with me to a Lexus leadership. Ngaya, by the way, is a mechanic. So and then we've been friends. So he always honest about, um, a car for me. I've been using him to fix my car, and I know that he can do the work. And that's the reason why I asked him to go to the dealership with me to pick the car for me, right? Because I don't know whether it's a good car or not, right? But I told him, let's just come take a look for fun, right? Um, so so he agreed, and then we go uh, on my 1995 Toyota We drive to the dealership. We almost there. We're almost there. And then I feel like, should I drive into the dealership? Because look, 1995 car, Toyota Camry, Lexus is so big, so fancy with a lot of nice looking car, right? So I was too embarrassing to park my Toyota next to new cars. So we left it, we parked it on the outside of Lexus dealership, and we walked into the dealership. Okay, so we're trying to get along. We're looking something, and we got a house. I mean, not the house. We got the car. The salesman was able to convince me to sign the purchase agreement, even though I just say I came there just for fun, right? I signed it, got the brand new car, black, 2 doors. I'm sorry, 4 doors, and that's a sport. So the sound is so memorable, right? So I got it, but then underneath the excitement was a discomfort. Think about it, right? The price tag of the Lexus is about $66,000. I'm sorry, $60,000. That is almost the whole year of income that I got offered. And by the way, did I tell you that I haven't got started yet on working? So I haven't earned any income yet. I already bought the house. I have no idea what the impact the decision was to my life, right? And so I just drove back, and then later met Mel, who is my mentor, as I told you. Obviously, he's not very happy about that decision. He explained to me that, hey, look, you get an offer at $66,000, right? For a job, but you never started anything yet. Now, by the way, 66,000 is just the gross, and you also have to, deduct the deduct medical expenses, a lot of things that get reduced. And by the time that everything subtracted, you may not be able to get 66,000. Why would me, buy the $60,000 Lexus car where, and by the way, you do have the student loan that you have to pay off as well. So we went through the whole conversation. I came to this decision. Okay, I didn't know how to get the finance in order. I was not 100% ready for it. Okay, so from that moment, I know that to be able to become a successful person in the US, I have to get my finance in order. And in fact, getting your finance in order is the first step to confidence to a confident home buying journey. Okay, when you know that you're ready to purchase the house, when you can when you can control your finance situation. And with that, I want to show you the framework that we use to control our finance. And by the way, we decided to sell the Lexus car after 2 years of owning it. We feel that it is not a healthy car to own anymore. It's become more headache because any kind of repair we become more headache because the repair cost is a lot. The payment is a lot too, but then the repair cost even give us more headache, and therefore because my wife and I, are getting married and we live in the same house, right? We decide to sell it later. Okay, so here's the framework for you to know that you are ready to put in the to buy a house. Okay, and the byproduct is the down payment. The byproduct is the down payment. If you go through this step from 1 to 5, right, you will be able to find out whether you are ready to buy a house or not. But then you also have the benefit of having. So let's go through each of the steps. Number one, the income inside. you have to find out exactly how much you bring home, not gross, right? Remember the $66,000 that I got offer is is basically the gross. And then Mel told me that you're gonna subtract this, that, this, right? You're not gonna be able to bring home 66,000 a year, right? You and then if you have two jobs, you add both of the, and if you have two people like me, my wife and I, right? You add all income of everyone into one number. So that's the income inside. And you have to find out exactly how much you bring home after all the expenses. This is very now the question that a lot of the self-employed people ask me, what if my income is not a consistent number? Right? The W2 income earner is easy because it's just one number you add up and you multiply by, how many, however, how many pay stub that you get, right? For the self-employed, you do have to do an average of the last 12 months and use that as one number for 1 month, and then you multiply by 12. So that's step number one. Step number two is extremely important because you have to identify the expense that you and your family spend during the month. Okay? Well, you don't talk about how to limit it yet. I just want to do an audit. Step 1 and 2 is more like an audit. Now, number 1 is audit what you earn, and number 2 is the audit of what you spend. Just list them out, categorize them, combine them together. If it is an eat out, let's combine them together, okay, into one category and do the similar to step number 1, which is calculate the average of the last 12 months and come up with a number that you feel, okay, this month I spent 200 in eating out, that month I spent 500, but this month also 600, the other month is 7. That's probably the average is 500. So you have to use a higher number. Don't just use the lower number, but because you want to minimize your expense. This is not about, winning. It is about being honest to you and to your situation, right? So that you're getting ready. Okay. So number 1 and number 2, after number 1 and number 2 is done, now is the time that you make the budget. The budget has to start with, the must have expense. Those are the things that you must spend. For example, if you're still renting right now, that is number 1, right? Otherwise, you live out of the street, or maybe you have to move back to your parents' house, which I highly not recommend it because it's actually, become downtrend if you move back to your parents, because that just means you cannot be financial independent. You have to depend on someone else. Okay, if you have to eat, okay, then that's fine, but give the eating out a reasonable number. Don't just like 90% of your income into that. Okay, whatever must, gas, insurance, medical insurance, right? Those are the things that is a must have. Take more priority, take on top, right? Put that on top. And then nice to have, like going out, like a movie, like date night. Okay, you still have to have some for date night, but it's not like the majority of the budgets. Okay, and then saving, create a column, create a budget for saving, because that will become a very important category in the next 2 steps. Because in the next 2 steps, you actually thinking about saving. Okay, the first goal is 1,000. Very easy, 1,000. Now you ask me, why 1,000 long? Why don't we do more? Okay, the thing is this: I don't want you to feel overwhelmed because of the saving number. And if you haven't been able to save any money in your entire life, 1,000 is a reasonable to start. It's not too small, but it's not too big for you. It's not too small for you to like, too simple. Here's 1,000, but it's not too big to make you feel stress, and then you give up. Remember, think about it. When you first start to, running a marathon, you have to take a small bite. Okay, you have to, take small, and then you eventually, run short, and then you can run longer, right? So take small step first. So that's the reason why we saving for 1,000 first makes sense. That is also the amount of money needed for emergency situation. For example, if your car get burned out, you need a new battery, you have the money ready so that you don't have to come back to the old style of living. Okay. And last, when you get 1,000, now is the time that you save for the down payment, because you already have all the foundation 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can just expand what you need. Okay, what you just expand the amount. You just increase the amount. And here some of you ask you, well, how much is the down payment? And that's really depend on your situation. Okay, and your area as well. You may be able to find a house in Chandler, Arizona, average median maybe 450, right? So that is actually one of the concepts I talk about in the buyer guide, in which I talk about the difference between the down payment amount, 3.5%, 5%, 10%, 20%, 0%, which one is better for you, right? So it depends on the situation, but I would say at least 5%. At least 5% is a good start, so that you have a good momentum, and then getting more and more, financial ready to purchase a home. With this, I do have a sheet that I use as well. That means basically, calculate the income, calculate the expense, helping you finding a budget, and you can track the budget as you go through the process. If you would like a copy, feel free to scan the QR code on the bottom, and I will send it to you for free. Okay. Now, your exercise, because I don't want to, you know, tell you, and then we don't have any action, and then you're gonna forget. As a result, I encourage you to create your first monthly budget if you haven't done so. But if you already have that, okay, try to save 1,000. Try to make a goal, not to just try not just to do the budgets because you want to control you want to know how much in, how much out, right? But you also want to control, and the goal is to save, like I said, 1,000 at the beginning. If you've done that, great. Let's talk about the 5,000, and then 5%, and then whenever you're ready, let's get approved, pre-approved for the loan. Talk with the loan officer, and I do have some information about how to choose the right loan officer as well in my buyer guide. So if you download that, you will be able to find out how to do that as well. Okay, but for now, let's focus on getting your monthly budget in place. Okay, all right. So let's talk about the second non-negotiable decision, which is pricing. How many of you think making the right offer is important in a real estate transaction? Pretty much should be all of you, right? Because we don't want to pay $400,000 for a house that only $300,000, right? Or maybe we don't want to offer only $200,000 for a house that value $300,000 house. Or sometimes there's an investor making that such an offer because they want to make a profit, and which is fine. But as a first-time home buyer, right, I try to create a win-win situation for both parties as much as possible, because of course you can make that such like $100,000 different offers, but then you never be able to get the house, and then you keep losing, because not every seller, not every home seller will be accepting that such a big loss, right? So we have to be reasonable, and we talk more about the offer strategy as well. But let's focus on the pricing right here. Pricing precision, pricing correctly prevent painful purchase pitfall, period. Okay, when you make the right precision, let me tell you a story. Okay, this is a story about me making the right offer. This is the one house that I bought for one of my clients in Chandler, Arizona. And as you know, if you follow the market, Chandler, Arizona is a very competitive and hot market in Arizona, right? A lot of people interested in buying a home in Arizona, in Chandler, Arizona. So, and whenever there's a house that, around 400, $420,000, it's very hot. And a lot of people make an offer into that. We did find a house for this specific buyers right here. This is the first time home buyers. And same situation, multiple offer situation, right? Now, all other offers, trying to bidding higher and higher, even in today's hot market. But that is not the right price for them. You may ask why? Why is not the right price? It's such a high offer. Why is not the right price? The right price for the seller is actually the one that at asking, but allow him to stay in the house for at least 12 months. Because he's in the situation of moving to a nursing home and he doesn't want to sell the house and haven't been able to find a nursing home yet. So the deal is only at the asking, but willing to let him stay at the house so that he find a place. So that's what I want to tell you, that pricing precision prevent a painful purchase pitfall. Because if you come in high and then eventually you find out the house has a lot of problem, then you're gonna back out. And then or worse, you continue and then find out later when you become a homeowner, you are not ready to all the repair, all the fix. So for that specific house, there's a lot of work needed. And well, I would say luckily for my buyers and luckily for every other buyers as well, in which that my buyers get the right price at a low price than other offers, right? So that we have time, money to fix the problem. But then the other buyers do not have to pay over for it and then, become a nightmare for them in the future. Okay. Now, here's the framework to make the right offer. I would say there's three things that you have to do to determine the price. Okay. Number one is to rely on the market trend. This is very important because the market trend is different depend on the local market. Okay. For example, if you live in California, California, you might have different trends, market trends than Arizona. And even in Arizona, if you live in Chandler, Gilbert, it may be different trend than Buckeye or Maricopa City, right? So it's really depend on the market trends at a certain area, and it is best to just look at the 6-month period. Otherwise, it's gonna become a completely market as well. Because if it is longer than that, it could means that it belong to a different situation. For example, during COVID, the interest rate is about 2 or 3. So a lot of buyers has to be, competing against each other and become, competing against each other and overbid on the home. If you use that data to apply for now, then you're not going to be able to make a fair offer for you, right? Because right now, the buyer actually have more advantage. Number two is the property condition. You have to look at the condition itself of the property itself, okay? If it is a nice property, okay, then you cannot just low bid as much as the one that needs a lot of upgrade. Okay, that's fair because they already spend money to upgrade the house or you make it more ready to move in, and all the buyers probably see that and will be interested in the same property as well. So if you say, this property, even though it is nicer, but the neighborhood is going down, and I'm not, of course you can talk to that, do that as well, but it has to be a reasonable compared to other things we call comps, right? You have to compare the current condition, the current property, current condition of the subject property to the comps. Comps is comparables, okay? And normally when I look at comps, I look at both close comps and active comps. The reason why I want to look at both is, of course, close will determine the base price for making the offer, but also active proactive comms is actually giving me a chance to negotiate. Because if there is another similar property in the same neighborhood, right, at a lower price, I can use that as a reason to drop the price on the subject property. Vice versa, right? If I feel like the price of the current subject property is too high, I maybe, talk to the other com to be able to negotiate on price of that one. And if that may be more encouraging to drop the price, and then we get a better deal. Right? So these are the three important factors that you need to look at: market trend, property, and comms when you determine the fair price for your property. So your homework for this exercise is, for this decision, is to create the three comms that will help you determine the price of your current residential. Okay, just use the current residence that you live in, and then find out three comps. Here's some exercise for you. You can find out, like, here's a sheet that you can download as well if you download my guide. Okay, then you can write out all the properties of the subject property, including what the price you're thinking, what the number of bedrooms, number of bathroom, how many partial baths that you have, a lot size, garage space. These are the detail of the subject property, and you find at least three comps, and then make any adjustment, make any evaluation to the price. If you want, by the way, if you want like a one-on-one helping you with walking through the process, I'm more than happy to work with you as well to determine the appropriate price and show you how to do that. But here's your exercise: find three comps of your current residence and estimate the value. So all the information that I present to you today will be available in this buyer guide right here. If you're interested, make a copy, download a copy, and read through it. It will have all the steps. In addition to the two non-negotiable decisions, there will be other non-negotiable decisions as well. For example, about negotiation, about a real estate transaction, about how to find the right people, how to find the right real estate agent and the loan officer to help you with the process, right? So in this down payment right here, I have everything for you. Okay, I'm sorry, in this buyer guide right here, I have everything for you. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for watching today's episode. Today webinar. I do have another webinar coming up in 2 weeks, probably on Thursday from 4 to 5. If anyone interested in the first-time homebuyer webinar, feel free to share the link, and hopefully they will be able to sign up and ask as many questions as possible during the webinar. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.